Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today it's time for my July wrap-up. July was the month that I read the most books so far in the year, so I'm very excited about that. I read a total of 2,607 pages and I listened to one audiobook that was 13 hours. 13 and a half. In July, I hosted together with Kelsey the video game-a-thon, so in the first week of July, all the books that I read were prompts for that readathon, and I'm going to start with those books. So the first one I finished was the group book, and it was Life is Strange Volume 1, the graphic novel that follows the story of Life is Strange after the game. So if you haven't played Life is Strange, I can't really say a lot about what the plot of this graphic novel is because it follows exactly after the end of the game. But if you have, that's it. It follows exactly after the end of the game. It kind of explores different possibilities in the graphic novel. The game is all about this girl who can rewind time a little bit and change her decisions and do something different. The graphic novel kind of explores a little bit on that realm as well. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 3.5, rounding up to 4 on Goodreads. It was really awesome. I don't think it was as good as the game. I still prefer the game because I think it kind of assumes that some things would have happened in the game, and like I said, you have choices in the game. So the graphic novel kind of assumes that it would be for someone who made those exact choices. But I thought it was really good. It was impactful. It was great to see their relationship evolve in the book. Some of the other characters from the game as well that came back in the graphic novel was really fun to see. So overall, I think it was an awesome read. I would definitely recommend it if you like the game. Definitely try to look for it because it's a great companion to that story. The second book that I read in July was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a YA thriller that is one of the best YA thrillers I've ever read. And it tells the story of a girl called, what's her name? Pip. She is investigating a crime that happened a while ago in her hometown in which a girl disappeared and everyone blamed the girl's boyfriend for what happened. But Pip doesn't think that's what really happened, and she wants to investigate that and figure out what's the truth. I thought this book was really well crafted and it was a lot of fun to follow that investigation with her. She's writing a paper for school with the theme of that investigation, and it's cool to see like the things that she's doing for school, but then she's also trying to just figure out her future with college and all that stuff. And I really enjoyed it. It surprised me a lot, not only the ending, how everything wrapped up, but quite a few things throughout this book were being revealed all the time, and I really enjoyed it. I really want to read the sequel of this book because I love this character. I love the way this investigation happened, and I think it can only get better from here. So I ended up giving this 4.5, rounding up to 5 stars on Goodreads, so one of my favorites of the year for sure. Next, I finished a series. I finally finished a series this year, and that was the Illuminae Files series. I read Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Finally, this, if you don't know what the series is about, it starts, the first book, Illuminae, starts with this couple who have just broken up. Their planet is attacked and they have to fly away on these spaceships, and then all this weird stuff starts happening there and they have to deal with all of that at the same time. And then the second book kind of follows a different couple, and here everyone is together, kind of. I can't say exactly what this book is about because it's a direct sequel to the other ones, but this actually went downhill for me. So the first book, Illuminae, was 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. There were some parts that were a bit boring to read, but overall I really enjoyed it. I like the mixed media aspect. It's all like different types of files of way to tell a story, I guess. And I really enjoyed that in Illuminae. It was 4 stars. The second one, I thought they did an awesome job with the mixed media, and they made it fit so well for that book. It was a complete 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed it. Well, it was a 4.5, rounding to 5 stars. I really enjoyed it a lot. So I was very hyped for this one, and this was 3 stars in the end. I just thought that the mixed media was not well used here. They just repeated a bunch of the same stuff, not only from the first book, a little from the first and second book, but also just in the book itself. Like they were exchanging messages and they were just using a different way to show it in the page that was messages, but not in a way that really immersed me in the story as as well as Gemina had done. So the series went downhill. I think the series overall is 4 stars, and I would definitely recommend it because the story is interesting, the sci-fi elements are very interesting, but I think this missed a very good opportunity to be awesome, and I don't know. It just disappointed me a little bit. It was not one of my most disappointing books of the year or anything like that. It was just okay, and I was expecting a lot more. Or maybe it will be one of my most disappointing books of the year. We'll see at the end of the year. And after this, I read an arc called The Last Beautiful Girl by Nina Laurie. This is another YA thriller, more of like a horror mystery suspense kind of thing. And it reminds me a lot of Horrid in a lot of ways, and I enjoyed it as much as I did Horrid for the same reasons. I still prefer Horrid, I think. I have to reread that. But I enjoyed it for most of the same reasons. And this tells a story of a girl who moved to a small town with her mom, her dad. I don't remember if her dad's in the story. It doesn't matter. She moves to this small town, and they start to live in this huge house that used to be the house of a model who lived in that city. She was like the muse for a bunch of artists, and there's all these paintings all around the house, kind of like Picture of Dorian Gray style. Like I said, it has a horror vibe, and I really enjoyed it. And one thing that I really liked about it, that other books that were supposed to be horror did wrong, did bad for me, was that this book did not fall in the trap of becoming a fantasy book. It was really just horror, a little bit paranormal, and just like what's going on story, more than a fantasy. Like, the author doesn't try to explain things in a fantasy way, more in a horror, suspense, paranormal way, which I really enjoyed. So I gave this 4.5, rounding up to 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a really surprising book for me because the cover is awesome, but I didn't think I would love it as much as I did. I have never heard anyone talking about it, so it was a really great surprise to find this book. I really recommend if you're looking for YA, mystery, horror type of stuff. Of course, it doesn't go as far as an adult horror would, but I think in the way that the story is told, the way that the main character develops throughout the whole story, and who she is in the beginning, who she is in the end, is just awesome. I don't know, I really love that. It's not fast-paced, but you can see a development as the story goes, and it's just really good. Another book that I read in July was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was a reread for me, but I read it so long ago I didn't remember any of the plot. Like, I remember a little bit of what I saw in the movie, but I didn't remember the plot or how the story is written as much. But I started this because Kelsey asked if I wanted to read the whole Lord of the Rings series with her. So we started with The Hobbit, and then in August we're gonna read The Fellowship of the Ring. And that's not going to be a reread. I haven't read Lord of the Rings, the main trilogy. So it was really good for me to jump back in the story with The Hobbit because it's a middle grade and it's just a better way to get into this world, I think. If you don't know what The Hobbit is about, it's about this hobbit called Bilbo. He joins a group of dwarves and a wizard called Gandalf, and they go together to get the dwarves' treasure back from this dragon that's holding the treasure in a mountain. As for the first time I read this book, it was a 4 stars again. It's not a new favorite, but I really enjoyed it. It's much more middle grade than I remembered. I remembered it being very slow and hard to get through, and I still felt a little bit like that in a lot of the points because I think the pacing of this book is really weird. The beginning is really good, and then the ending is really fast. I feel like there was a lot of things in the middle of the book that didn't have to be as well described, as well explained, so we could give more time to the other parts or just make the book bigger. I don't know. But I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I think the relationship between Bilbo and the dwarves is just super funny, and I love them. And Bilbo just complains throughout the whole trip, and I could totally relate. That would be me. If someone put me in that situation, I would be complaining the whole trip. So I think as much as he was a very annoying character, it was very realistic, especially for Hobbit, like to get out of their comfort and go on a journey. Like, I understand that that's not an easy thing to do. So I'm going to jump in the Fellowship of the Ring in August. I'm really excited for it. I have watched the movies, I know the plot, but I don't know how I'm going to feel with the writing style, because this already felt dragging a little bit for me, but we'll see. I'm excited. So remember to subscribe if you want to see my thoughts on The Lord of the Rings. After that, I read Fireborne by Rosario Munda. This is a YA fantasy that tells the story of these two kids, Annie and Lee, and they're both orphans from a war that happened when they were young. The girl's family was killed by the emperor, or I don't remember their title, but like the emperor, and the boy is actually the son of the emperor, and his family was killed by the rebels who are now in charge of the world. So they become friends when they were young, and now as teenagers they are training to be dragon riders and to rule the dragon riders in this world. I really love the dragon riding parts of this book. I think we need more dragons in our books, and that was really, really fun. But overall, the story, the plot, the relationship between them, I just was left very disappointed. I thought it was very normal YA. I don't know. They didn't behave as I wanted them to behave. Not necessarily as a teenager would behave. They were just stupid a lot of times. And I don't know. It was fun. It was nice. Not something that I'm going to remember for a long time. I don't want to continue the series necessarily, but we'll see. I would recommend, if you're looking for a YA fantasy, if you really enjoy YA fantasies and you want one with dragons, I think you would love this. But I just feel like a lot of YA fantasies lately for me just feel a lot of the same. I think I read too many in the past few years, and now I need a break because they all just sound the same. Characters sound the same. They feel like the same character over and over. One other issue that I had with this book is that the chapters are separated between Annie and Lee, and honestly their voice was very similar to each other. I didn't see a lot of difference between the way that they spoke in those chapters, so that bothered me a little bit. I wanted them to be more different. They are described differently, but they have the same voice, if that makes sense. So yeah, I was disappointed, but it's not a bad book. I didn't dislike it. I just don't know if I needed it in my life. And then I listened to an audiobook for a book that is on my August TBR. I didn't think I would finish it this fast, but I was really engaged. And that was A Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This is from my Advent Calendar series. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a series that I did in December in which booktubers recommended books to me. And this book was recommended to me, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And this tells a story of this woman who is pregnant with a baby who she finds out will have a heart defect and might not survive. And she's a widow because her husband died in Vietnam. So the whole story happens in like the 70s. And her brother-in-law comes to her and says, "Oh, maybe I could help. I'm actually from the future and we could fix your baby in the future and then you can come back." Of course, things unravel and that doesn't happen as smoothly as it sounds, but I really enjoyed the sci-fi aspects. I didn't think it would go as deep in the time travel thing in this book as it did, and there were quite a few twists that I did not see coming that I was like, oh my god, what do we do now? The ending, when we get one of the last twists, I think the ending was very obvious, and that maybe was something that the author had to do to make this work in the end. But just overall, the story was a lot of fun. I was very engaged, and I just wanted to know what was happening. I kept pausing the audiobook and being like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. So I think that's a very good sign. I would definitely recommend this book if you like sci-fi and literary fiction, because I think it's a blend of both. It's definitely, like, the point of the story is more on the literary fiction side. It's more on the drama of how she's going to fix this whole situation. But I really like time travel things, so yeah, I definitely recommend this one. And then I read one of my favorite books of the entire year, and it's no surprise, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I love The Martian. It is one of my favorite books, so I picked this up and I had to start as soon as I could, and I really loved it. The start of this book is about a man who wakes up in this spaceship and he doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't know what's going on, why he's there, or anything. And then we have some flashbacks, so the story is told in 2 timelines. As he starts to remember things about his past, about how he got there, about who he is, what is happening, why he's there, all that stuff. We get these 2 timelines and he starts to try to figure stuff out. If you like The Martian, definitely pick this up. I think it has the same vibe, the same humor. The character is very similar. It feels a lot like Mark Watney on A New Adventure, but I don't think that's a fault of this book. I don't think that's a negative aspect of this book because I really like the character, and this is a complete, total different situation that he's in, and there's a lot of other science elements here that are explored that I can't say much because it would be a spoiler. But again, if you like heavy sci-fi, like science-heavy sci-fi, that explains a lot about the elements or the space things. Like everything is very explained in this book in a way that it's not overwhelming because it's funny. He keeps making fun of the whole situation, so he always has like a metaphor for what is happening, and then you're like, oh, okay, I understand the science thing now because of the way that you said it. So I think it was really, really good. I saw that a movie was already picked up for this book, and I'm really excited for it. I think it would make a great movie like The Martian did, and I just loved it. It was 5 stars. I don't know if I said that, but it was 5 stars. I know the ending of the book is quite polarizing. A lot of people love it or hate it. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a good way to wrap this up in a way that it was satisfying to me, but it also made sense for the story, and it showed the development of this character. There's also quite a few, but especially one character in this book that is amazing, and it makes the whole story just that better. And I can't say more because I don't want to say more about this book. I just want people to not know anything about it going in. Just take my word for it. It's awesome. 5 stars. I loved it. Let me know if you read any of these books and which books you read in July that you would recommend as well. Remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much for joining me. Bye!